Well, this is your democracy. One world we will never be. Well, this is your democracy. One world we will never be. Well, this is your democracy. You will never take me alive.
World welcomes you to Mount Morris, Pennsylvania for round 3 of the AMA 250cc Outdoor Motocross Series. Hello everyone, I'm John Kernan along with former motocross champion David Bailey. And David, a lot of rain this morning has really muddied up the track.
Well, it's difficult for the riders to try to figure out what they're going to do. The mechanics and the riders, they're probably talking about different tire choices and possibly different kind of goggles set up to use, maybe a roll-off where you have more vision for the whole race. Vision is a real problem in the rain, and it's just difficult when it's threatening skies. I'd rather it just rained or it was sunny. It's difficult to have that on your mind.
Yes, it definitely is. Also a big story following today, the return of Damon Bradshaw. For more on that, let's go down to Art Ekman.
John, there's nothing like a sports superstar coming out of retirement, especially if you're as colorful as Damon Bradshaw. Damon, I know you get butterflies before every race, but is the adrenaline pumping a little harder right now?
Yeah, it sure is. You know, there's a lot more, as you said, adrenaline, butterflies, everything. You know, it's my first race in a long time. I haven't been on the gate with 40 guys in a while, so, you know, that's something that's going to be a little different to me. I mean, it's something that I have never not done before, so I'm looking forward to it.
You've really prepared hard for this comeback, but are you ready? Do you feel ready?
Yeah, I feel ready. You know, I know that I still have a lot of progress that I can make, and, you know, I think as time goes on, I'm only going to get better, but, you know, I got to see where I stand. You know, I can practice and train all I want, but I got to get out here and race with these guys.
What do you realistically expect of yourself?
I expect myself to win. I expect myself to be up front, but the main thing is I want to be in the race, and I want those guys to know I was here.
A little crazy having to qualify?
Yeah, it's a little different. I've had to do it before, but, you know, it's just a couple more laps on the racetrack.
And the fan reaction has been outstanding.
Yeah, it's been really good. You know, again, I look forward to racing here in Mount Morris every year, even when I was racing before, and it's good to be back here.
It's good to see you back, Damon.
Thank you.
As I speak for many, many fans here at Mount Morris. Back to you guys in the booth.
Thank you, Art. You know, David, why is Damon coming back? Is he getting low on cash, you think?
Well, a lot of people have speculated that. I think Damon was made some good decisions, had good advice when he was earning big money, and I think he's set for life. So the motivation is just that he's 22 years old and he has an incredible talent, natural talent, to ride a motorcycle, and I think that parallels that of Michael Jordan. He's just now has a desire and a love for the sport, and he wants to come back and show what he can do.
Well, we should have a great show for you. Let's take a look at the track.
Well, it's kind of tough to tell really what's going on from this track map, but you see over on the bottom right, there's a little elbow that hangs down. That's a new wood section that they've added where they actually cross a creek. They put a lot of sawdust on the track. That's going to help keep it from getting really slick, and it doesn't really matter what's going on with the track. The matter is that it's raining.
And then you get a good look at Damon Bradshaw as he makes his return to the sport after nearly a year and a half off. We'll be back with Moto 1 after this. Welcome back to High Point Raceway, Mount Morris, Pennsylvania, getting set for the start of Moto number 1. There's the 3-time Supercross champion who also happens to be leading the outdoor series by a point over this man, Mike Kiedrowski. That was Jeremy McGrath, of course, I'm talking about. Kiedrowski lined up next to Doug Henry, and if you're going to have a guy do well in the mud, you You got to figure Doug Henry's going to be it, right, David?
Well, he does fantastic in the mud. The first outdoor national he ever won was in the mud, and he won his first Supercross of his career in the mud. So I would say he does okay when it's raining.
And you can get a great look at the mud right there at the starting line, and you can also see that it is still raining. The signboard goes down. They rev the engines, waiting for the gates to drop for Moto number 1 to be underway. A great look overhead, and look at that. It looks like Damon Bradshaw making a successful return, gets the whole shot, but wait a minute. Number 14, John Dowd, gets around him.
And look at that on the inside, number 7, Mike Kudrowski going down, and it looked like he got up and saved a few spots, but definitely he's got his work cut out now.
Oh, he's way back in the pack. Up front, there's the battle. You see Bradshaw followed by Doug Henry. Bradshaw being very impressive here on the first lap. And look, was that Jeremy McGrath that we saw off the left side of the screen? Might have fallen here in the whoop section.
Right
yeah,
there.
Look, number 3.
Yep, he got out of shape going through these. That's a really tricky downhill whoop-de-doo section, and he just, his feet came off the pegs, but listen to the crowd. That's got to be from the reaction of Damon Bradshaw, his first ride back, taking the lead.
Well, we knew he would come out charging it. Oh, man, he gets it sideways, and Dowd collects the front wheel, and Bradshaw goes down. Doug Henry has moved into the lead.
What a bummer, boy. He had clean sailing right there, and as we pointed out at the top of the show, vision is absolutely crucial, and you can see all that mud flying right there. Damon had look how clean he is still.
Oh, man.
And that's a big advantage to get out to an early lead like that and cover everybody with mud. We're going to get another look at it. As he comes into the corner, everything's going good. He lays it into the berm, and the back tire does not get into that rut. It slides out from under him. Looked like he was going to save it. Henry clipped him, and then his teammate, John Dowd, came in there and sort of finished him off. Really, really bad set of circumstances right there for Bradshaw.
And those circumstances allowed 24-year-old Doug Henry to move out in front. He's the 2-time defending 125 national champion, making his mark here in the 250 series. In fact, he's leading it right now. And Art Ekman is down in his pits with Pete Steinbrecher.
Your kind of race. He loves the rain.
Well, you guys saw him do it at Dallas, and you know, if you talk to Doug, I don't know if he'd say he enjoys the rain, but he seems to do pretty well at it.
You made the right choice. That's obvious too. With the grip he's getting out front.
Yeah, you know, this track is so bad. If you don't get a good start, it's very hard to make up time. So the guy that can be in the top 5 in the start probably can win this thing.
Well, Doug Henry, not just a top 5, but he is leading it now. There's the green flag. First lap is complete. And Doug, he's picked up a pretty sizable lead over John Dowd right now. In fact, now Dowd in a battle with James Dobb for that second spot.
And Dobb takes the spot away from Dowd. He just slides to the inside. Now Dowd back up the inside. These guys are having a great battle, but it looks like Henry is checked out for the moment.
Well, we kind of expected Doug Henry, as well as he does in the mud, to check out. But Dowd also, he's not too shabby a rider in these types of conditions either. But now he's got his hands full with James Dobb.
These guys are kind of in a battle of just sort of blocking each other right now and trying to protect their vision. I want to point out that the same day that Henry won his first national at Hangtown a few years back, Dowd picked up his first national win in the 250 class the same day. So both these guys, excellent riders in the mud.
Well, you get a good look at it right there as they come up by the fans. A huge crowd on hand this weekend. I'm told somewhere over 25,000 people. Now you look back towards second place as you see Doug Henry come through your screen. There is John Dowd, followed by James Dobb. It looked for a moment there like he might be closing in, but I think that's a little bit misleading there.
Well, it just depends where they are on the racetrack. There's times when into the tight sections where the riders actually look like they're closer together and then it opens back up. And it's very deceiving when you're in second place, too, to get to a certain section on the racetrack and think, oh, I'm making time. And then to find out as soon as he crests another hill and get down the straightaway, the leader looks like he's pulled out quite a big distance. And right here, you can see how slippery he is coming down. This is really off camber right here. Dowd and Bradshaw right there electing to use that berm to get traction, and Dobb going all the way to the outside.
Man, where did Damon come from? Remember, he fell midway through that first lap, dropped at least 15, 16 spots. He's back now in the top 5. In fact, Damon Bradshaw is currently being shown 4th on our Suzuki Field summary, but Doug Henry is leading. We'll be back with more in just a moment. Welcome back to High Point Raceway, Mount Morris, Pennsylvania. Art Ekman, David Bailey, and John Kerner bringing you a fine second-place battle right now. Dowd is in second. He's followed by James Dobb, and of course Damon Bradshaw has snuck back into the picture.
Well, Bradshaw is fast. There's no doubt about that. I don't think any doubt in anyone's mind how fast Damon is. And right now, he seems to have recovered from that first lap incident. I have to wonder what would have happened had he been able to stay up. I think he'd be gone right now. But the rider that seems to be pulling out a pretty good lead is Doug Henry. No stranger to the mud. I don't think he likes riding in it, but he definitely goes fast in it, and so does this guy right here, John Dowd.
What makes the big difference? What makes one guy great in the mud and another guy not so good?
Well, I think it has to do with where you live. And look at Damon, just aggressive, muscling his way through there, makes the pass on Dobb. I think it's they live up in the New England, and rains quite a bit up there, and I think they have an opportunity to ride in the mud a little more often and possibly just have a little bit more confidence in it. It's also an intimidation factor and psychological. The other riders just assume that since those guys live in more rainy climates that they practice in it, and they tend to look out for those guys.
Well, John Dowd is in second. Brian Berry is his mechanic, and he is with Art.
Looks like he's picking up at some kind of Yamaha twosome out there.
Yeah, I'm sure he doesn't want Damon to beat him his first race back, so I'm sure he saw that 114 behind him and took off.
Well, these weather conditions just keep changing during the race.
Yeah, I mean, right now it's really hard. We've had to, change tires 3 or 4 different times. We had to really guess to come out here. And right now, I think I have a little bit too hard packed of a tire on, but I think it's just in the rear. So the rear, he can work with that. If it was the front, we'd be hurting right now.
So they're okay on the front, but on the back, they've got a slight problem.
Well, they've just chosen a tire where the knobs are a little shorter and a little closer together, so it just doesn't sling that mud out of there good enough. He doesn't get good enough traction. But what he said about the front tire, and that he thinks they're doing okay with that, if you were going to get a flat tire, you would want it to be on the rear, because anybody can slide the bike around, but when you lose the front end, boy, you can't be aggressive at all.
Boy, look at Damon Bradshaw. He went way outside, a totally different line than John Dowd, then up the hill over the jump. And look at that. He has closed the gap. Bradshaw, who took the whole shot and then fell down on the very first lap, is trying to make a bid for the second position. But look at the distance that Dowd puts on him coming down the hill, and then here's that off-camber turn. But there again, they make a rut in the mud, so that helps him out there, doesn't it, David?
That's right. And Damon, actually, in that corner before, he went all the way to the bottom and tried to get a run at that double jump coming up the hill. He almost made it.
Well, Bradshaw sitting right now in third place, of course, making his big comeback. Everybody's excited about it, especially Art Ekman, who had a chance to sit down and have an extended conversation.
Took me basically missing it. I miss the sport, I miss the competition, the racing, I miss the people, and I miss that good feeling of winning.
Damon Bradshaw is back in typical Bradshaw full-throttle style, but he returns with a renewed spirit, knowing he did the right thing in taking leave from the sport that had become his life.
I'm still 22, and I've only been away from the sport for, a season and a half, and I've learned a lot as far as how to look at things different, and I think how to deal with problems a lot better. I don't know if that's just a matter of being a year older, 2 years older, but I think I can deal with a lot of those hills that you deal with in the sport a lot better and come down the downside a lot smoother.
So successful, so young. The expectations, even in those early amateur days, were great. The label of a surefire superstar invaded his world of just having fun. The expectations grew, especially when Bradshaw's very first professional race became one of his very favorite memories.
That was one thing I'll always remember back to. Not only winning, but being able to beat Ricky Johnson and knowing what he had done in the States before we went there. Yamaha is obviously a Japanese company, so I was able to win in front of all those guys. And it was that feeling, I hope one of these days I can relive those same kind of feelings.
The Miami 125 Supercross would be another unforgettable moment, but for reasons other than just the victory stand.
And every time I'd go down, I'd go, man, I can't be doing this and wanting to win this race. And then I'd get back to the front and I'd go down again. So it was like I climbed that ladder I don't know how many times. And every time I got up, the people were just there behind me. So I think if it wouldn't have been for the people cheering me, it would have been hard to keep coming back to the front time after time.
Winning the 125 region that first pro season, edging out rival Mike Kudrowski, confirmed to the experts who were eager to crown the 16-year-old as the sport's next headliner. But losing the Nationals to Kudrowski that year brought a feeling of strong disappointment.
Yeah, I raced against some guys I raced against in the amateur career, and it was not necessarily lower key, it was that stepping stone for the 250 class. So it relieved a little bit of pressure, but I mean, it was still there. I mean, it's almost like regardless if I'm out on the street racing bicycles, you know, around the mailbox or racing motorcycles, it's still that same amount of pressure of just wanting to win.
The next season, as expected, he advanced to the 250s. Why stay on the farm when one's ready for the major leagues?
I didn't expect myself to go out and win those races. I expected myself to do well and be in the race. And then I go out and win the first 3, and it's like those expectations just keep climbing. So I think we went into the 4th race at San Diego, and, you know, I had an injury there that set me back for quite a while. And it was kind of hard to deal with that because I felt like I was, you know, on a roll.
He was on another roll in 1992 when, after a record 9 wins in the season, he lost the title on the final day to Jeff Stanton. There was no need to manufacture this rivalry. Stanton and Bradshaw's intense desire to win made for one of the sport's most exciting matches.
Probably have to be in Charlotte. I mean, that was a feeling of winning. In front of my home crowd, in front of people that I went to school with. Me and Stanton had the battle that we had, and it was a supercross, but man, at the end of that race, I was beat.
Such competition, of course, created the most spectacular compromising, if not dangerous, situations.
Jeff was doubling, landing on the downside, and then driving up the triple, and I was jumping it and landing right into the face of the triple, so instead of my suspension going up and down so many times, it was just once. And I noticed if I lost a little ground, I could catch it there, and just one of those times I landed and one tire was in one rut and the other tire was in the other rut, and it didn't end up good.
While away from the sport, things had changed a bit.
The bike has changed a lot. I mean, obviously the colors have changed. The horsepower in the bike has changed a lot. The bike is a lot more, it's a lot easier to ride in every condition. John R. and Bob, we all went out and did some testing, and man, it was like I was at home.
And from his observations of Jeremy McGrath's Supercross dominance, don't expect a new shy Bradshaw.
The guys, they get there, they're wondering who's going to get second place. And if Jeremy gets a bad start and they know it, they're constantly looking over their shoulder, wanting to see when he's gonna pass them. And I'm on the starting line, I'm going to hate everybody. You know, to me, when you go on this race, you know, you go on the racetrack, you're going out there basically a fight, you know. And I don't see 2 guys going in the ring to box that like each other.
Admittingly, it will take this true competitor time to get back to race form. But after an almost 2-year hiatus, Damon Bradshaw likes what he sees and likes what he feels about himself. Back to the action.
Of course, Damon Bradshaw, always one of the fan favorites, a great rider to watch. Very, very exciting, very, very fast. He's trying to close in on Dowd for that second spot. And look at that, David, just the traction just not there coming out of that turn.
Well, the track is extremely hard packed, and it's covered with all this slime, making it so slick. And right here, Damon going a little wide. It's the same corner he fell in earlier, and he can't get that corner wired. Dobb slips underneath him right there.
Dobb takes over the 3rd place, but Damon right behind him, getting ready to come up the hill. Be very careful here. Here comes Bradshaw setting up for a double jump, and he closes some ground, but he's still standing in the 4th spot. As you get a look at our Suzuki Field summary. Back with more right after this. Welcome back to Mount Morris, Pennsylvania, and look at Damon Bradshaw getting ready to make a move on James Dobb as they go in, and look at Bradshaw cut off the inside and scoot on past.
Well, that's a pretty off-camber corner right there. It's tough to get around there. Dobb drifts a little wide. Damon holding the inside line and gets back around him. These two have been having a pretty good battle, but our leader, Doug Henry, is gone.
You know, I hate to make it sound like we're favoring Damon Bradshaw because he works as a commentator on our 125 coverage on ESPN2, but you have to be impressed with his early showing here.
Well, this is not a comeback. He is back. There's no doubt in anyone's mind now that this kid's got the speed and the composure to go out and ride well. Although he fell down, you know, so is everyone. McGrath's hit the ground, and we haven't seen him yet, so everyone's having their problems, and in Damon's defense, you know, he deserves to fall down once.
Everybody does, right? There's another one of those off-camber turns, but there is a rut. Bradshaw coming up the hill. Looks like he's having a little bit of a problem. Almost comes off the bike, the feet off the pegs, but he holds on to that 3rd spot.
Extremely aggressive. That's how I would describe Damon Bradshaw, and that's how you attack the mud. Now, you might fall once or twice, but you're better off riding aggressive and digging down through that mud to find traction than you are to try to ride around carefully and make a bunch of mistakes and go slower anyway.
Well, you look at Dobb almost making a mistake trying to enter that turn just a little too deep as he had to get on the brakes and the rear end kicked out from behind him. But there you get a look at Bradshaw. He got the whole shot, remember, fell down, lost at least 15 spots, and has worked his way back up into the 3rd spot. And only time will tell if he is going to catch up with John Dowd and make it a battle for that 2nd position.
Right now, it looks like he's pretty far behind. But one thing I noticed as I'm watching Damon is that his style still looks the same as it did when he was riding before. That's one thing that everyone really liked about him, and he hasn't lost it.
Well, one of the more likable riders on the circuit has a knee injury. He's sidelined. Todd DeHoop is with our Art Ekman.
Well, a young man who just as soon be on the track right now, despite these tough conditions, is Todd DeHoop. Todd, your knee, how's it coming along?
It's getting real good. I had orthoscopic surgery last week, and I feel real strong. I'm starting to get full movement back, and I'm shooting for, a Las Vegas date of coming back and riding. So I'm gonna, start working out real hard here in the next week, and hopefully we get back real soon.
You're helping out your bro today?
Yeah, my brother's out there battling with the 250 riders. He qualified 5th in his qualifier, and he's running about 25th right now. It's real tough out there in this mud, but if he hangs strong to the finish, I think he can finish right up there. So I'm pulling for him.
Well, we go back a little further in the field. Remember these two guys? Kudrowski crashed on the very first turn of the first lap, and McGrath went down shortly thereafter. They are not in the top 10. These are the two guys who are leading the points. McGrath with 81 points. He's got a victory at Gainesville. Then at Hangtown last time, Kudrowski came back with the win, and he trails Jeremy by only a point. Right now, he has gotten around McGrath, and just look at all that mud. You talked about vision. If you're not up front, you get covered by a lot.
Well, when you take a look at these guys, look at the front of them right now. Any one of these guys, they're covered with mud. Now, you can imagine it doesn't just dodge your eyes. Of course, you're going to get pelted in the lenses with that, and they have what they call a roll-off system, where you pull it and you get clear vision. It looks a lot like what we see in car racing, where they move that film across the camera lens. That's what it looks like from the rider's point of view. And there's enough they can pull that across the entire moto.
Do you actually reach up and pull it across, kind of like a tearaway, only you don't throw it all the way off, you're just rolling it up?
Right, it's just a string, and it returns by itself. You pull it once or twice, and goes across and gives you clear vision. Now, it's only about an inch tall, so you're still looking through very little clear lens, but it's better than nothing.
Yeah, it sure is. Now they're down in a very tricky area to negotiate, especially in this mud. And look, Kudrowski off course and falls down, almost rolls over.
Looked like he just got off the line a little bit. It's hard to tell from this vantage point, but it looked like he went over the berm and was going to go around the outside of that tree there. Now he's in a difficult place to even get back going. We're going to see if we can get another look at it. This is actually after he's already made the mistake, and he's still standing on that off camber. So for him to try to get going, it's going to take a lot of energy and he'll lose a lot of time.
And he got a lot of mud all over him. Look at that. Kudrowski picks up, recovers, and has gotten back into the fray, but he's way far behind. Far out front, though, is Doug Henry, and you talked about if you're out front how clean you are. Doug looks pretty clean right now as he continues to lead the pack. As you take a look at our Suzuki Field summary, we will be back with the closing laps in just a minute. Art Ekman, David Bailey, and John Kernan back at Mount Morris. There you get a good look at the leader, Doug Henry, and look at that, David. That is just tough going to negotiate that turn.
Well, he actually did a smart thing. He's trying to stay out of that deep rut. When you get into those deep ruts, there's a chance you could throw the chain and have other problems. You drag the foot pegs and the brake pedals and you get mud all bunched up in there. He lost a little time by trying to stay out of that rut, but he's playing it safe.
Well, it is very late in the first moto. Remember, it's 30 minutes plus 2 laps, and right now Doug Henry has a fairly comfortable lead.
And right now he's got that lead over John Dowd. You just got a glimpse of right there. And Dowd has been lurking back there, but he really hasn't put on any kind of serious threat to Henry. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that and assume that John Dowd is just pretty content with second place right now.
Well, of course, this year, John Dowd has only managed a 14th at Gainesville, and then at Hangtown the last time he was up in the top 5, finished 5th overall. But here last year at Mount Morris, Dowd coming through with an 8th place overall finish.
Well, he's doing quite a bit better, and it doesn't appear that anyone's really pressuring Dobb, and now all problems for Damon.
Damon must have gone down again, dropped the bike, and looks like he's having problems getting it refired again as he kicks it.
You can see him, the frustration. The bike just won't start. And sometimes when you have it in gear, he's obviously in neutral now. And he's got it running. He's trying to get his goggles back on. It's important to try to keep your goggles on at all costs. And looks like he's ready to go again, but obviously I mean, just he lost quite a bit of time just that we've seen, and who knows how long he sat there before we caught up with him.
Meanwhile, back up front, Doug Henry still in the lead, but look at that. James Dobb has gotten around John Dowd and has now moved into second place, and you can look for Dobb maybe to make a challenge in the late stages here on Doug Henry.
Well, he's already put a pretty good distance on Dowd, who was, staying within view of Doug Henry, so it appears as though Dobb is running a pretty fast pace right now, and he possibly could catch up to Henry. There's enough time.
Plenty of time left. Doug Henry is the leader, trying to capture his very first AMA 250cc Outdoor National Moto win. What a day it would be for him. There you get a good look at the man who is in second place. James Dobb now lives in Dayton, Ohio. He is trying to chase down the leader. And Art Ekman is down in Dobbs' pit. Let's check in with him to see if Dobbs can make the move.
Everybody was watching the Henry battle with number 14 Dowd, and all of a sudden your guy sneaks in there. Here he comes. Gone for the win. And Dobb has just moved into the lead of this race.
Oh, it's unbelievable. I never thought we'd be up front, but middle of the race, he come up and was on the podium. Now he's pushing for the win. He just passed Henry. I just hope he can stay there.
Apparently a fan there on top of one of the campers had the Union Jack out to signify James Dobb of England is out in front. And look at Doug Henry go out high and coming in alongside John Dowd, trying to take advantage of it. And David, it looks like we're going to have a three-way battle for the victory here in Moto number 1.
Well, this is a great battle because John Dowd, who I didn't think was that threatening, he is within striking distance. Anything can happen here with these muddy situations. You see how fast somebody can make a mistake and lose time. Right there, Dowd having struggling down that downhill. But a replay on the pass. You see Dobb coming up the inside, just sort of takes the line away. An excellent block pass on Henry. Really not much Henry could do. He tries to cut back underneath him. That's the logical thing, but on the next corner, Dobb's got the inside. So that's the same move he did to John Dowd earlier in the moto.
So Dobb making a very heads-up move there as he takes Henry high into the corner, off the berm, gets on the gas, and scoots away and into the lead. But that's a very tenuous lead right now as we are winding down. And Henry, knowing time is almost running out as he tries to get his first 250 Outdoor National victory. In fact, he has one lap to chase down James Dobb and get around for that win. Now, Henry, good experience here. He won last year on a 125.
Well, I think Henry, he looks really strong right now. Plus, he's got goggles. James Dobb is riding with no goggles, and look at this battle.
Doug Henry trying it just a little. Oh, they might have touched just a bit right there. Dobb manages to hold on to the spot. It is going to heat up here in this last lap, and look at the fans waving Doug Henry on. So I thought I saw one of the fans in the background actually jumping up and down just a moment ago, David.
Well, these people are definitely excited. You can hear them right now. These guys have picked up the pace and just dropped John Dowd. He's nowhere in view of our cameras, and it's definitely a two-rider battle. Henry is for sure. He's close enough to make a pass. Dobb's got all the pressure here. One mistake, and Henry's by.
Now they come back down the hill. There goes Doug Henry trying to chase down James Dobb. As David said, no goggles. Dobb, we're told, lost him early on in this moto, so it's good for him to be out front. He's not picking up a roost from somebody, and you get a rock or a piece of dirt in the eye. That could injure chances at victory because your vision would go away. But look at James Dobb down the hill now. Let's see when Henry decides to make the challenge. They'll come to this off-camber part.
Dobb's just riding, he's smart. He's riding the fastest line, and it's going to be difficult. He's going to force Henry to have to go somewhere else, somewhere that's not quite as fast, somewhere where there's a little bit more mud that's been pushed off to the side to make that pass, and those are good odds.
I don't know. That's kind of like riding defensively on the last lap. I think you almost have to let it all hang out.
Well, I think he is, and ultimately you got to find the best combination between the two, protecting the best line, riding a little bit defensive, and riding aggressive.
Well, about a half lap to go. Doug Henry is poised in position, coming down the hill, takes a line around the outside, and Doug Henry coming down the hill into this off-camber area, cuts off James Dobb and moves into the lead. What a move.
That was a gutsy move. You come down, that hill is so steep, and it's an off-camber corner. You miss that, and you're in the woods. So he pulled it off.
You'll go hunting, or what'd you say a while ago? You might marry a tree or something in there? Man, Doug Henry with a great move, a courageous move, has moved back out into front. You got to wonder is after Dobb got around him and took over the lead, if Doug didn't just settle down and check his lines out. But there he comes across the finish line. Doug Henry with his very first 250cc Outdoor National Moto win.
I saw Doug look over his shoulder after he made the pass. He kept looking back, and I think Dobb went down.
But he still manages to finish in second place as you take a look at the top 5 results. A great ride in there for Greg Albertine. And as you look at the rest of the top 10, Art Ekman is with Doug Henry, the winner.
Well, Doug, you had a lot of competition out there. Bradshaw gets the whole shot. You got pressure from everybody. And then James Dobb comes up and takes first place.
I know, I couldn't believe it. He was putting in a great ride, and he was riding really good out there on his Honda Troy bike. I know, those bikes are really good, and he was putting in a great ride. I knew I just had to do it a little bit better.
How did you have to size up the situation to get by him?
Well, I kind of figured out what lines he was using and kind of adjusted them to some of mine, and I knew, a lot of the lines were good outside. So at one point, I'm really not sure where I passed him, but I'm pretty sure he went on the outside and I snuck on the inside of him and I was able to get by him.
We'll be back with Moto number 2 right after this. Back at High Point, getting ready for the start of Moto number 2. You get a good look at John Dowd. And David, what's on top of his helmet?
I'm trying to figure that out myself. It looks like a piece of an air filter, and I can only assume that now that it's starting to dry out, that mud gets stickier and it sticks to the top of your helmet and it gets heavy and it pushes down on your face, pushes your goggles down, so they can tear that off later on.
Very, very interesting innovation. Put an air filter. I don't guess it'll do any good at filtering the thoughts going through your mind. And look at
Damon Bradshaw, he's got one too. So it's obviously a strategy by Yamaha to try to alleviate having all that weight build up on your helmet. It ruins your vision eventually.
There you get another look. Another rider doesn't have it. That's number 11. That's Larry Ward, who had a great Supercross season, we should add, but today hasn't been near the front at all.
Nowhere to be seen during the first moto. Neither was McGrath or Kedrowski or Emig or anyone else. So I think that'll change in the next moto.
Well, it's kind of dried out. The rain is quit. We'll have to wait and see how that affects some of these riders as they tear up the hill for the start.
It looks like Damon Bradshaw again up the outside. Looked like he had the whole shot. He had a couple riders inside of him. There he is. Oh, Jeremy McGrath stealing the lead. He did a big swap going into the corner, but held on to it.
Well, Jeremy McGrath, of course, started out the year to get with the overall win at Gainesville, winning that second moto and trying to become the first repeat moto winner of 1995. He gets the whole shot ahead of his teammate on the Honda, Doug Henry. Look, he's got a towel hanging off the side of his pants. I guess that's in case he gets some mud up there to wipe his visor or something.
Well, I think he can just wipe his hands on it, and it kind of looks like a quarterback, doesn't he, with that little towel hanging out there? But I think I saw a lot of the guys do that at the Dallas Supercross this year, and if your hands get slippery or if you fall in the mud and your glove gets all slimy, you can wipe it on that towel so that you can get a grip on the handlebars.
So you just reach back and swipe your hand across the towel. I never would have thought of that.
So now I think what's going to be interesting is if Damon Bradshaw, he said he wanted to be in the race. He's in the race right now. He's got Emig behind him, the two fastest riders from Team Honda in front of him, and it'll be interesting to see if he can run this pace.
Well, Jeff Emig did not have a very good Moto number 1 at all. In fact, he finished in the 10th spot, but now he has moved his way into the top 5. There you get a good look at Doug Henry. He's riding in second place, followed by Damon Bradshaw in third as they come down the hill. And there you see Jeff Emig. He has moved into 4th spot.
And I think the motivation from Emig right now has got to be, don't let Damon beat you. This guy sat at home for a couple of years, and he comes out, beats me in the first moto, and here I am looking at the back of him again. And maybe a little pride on the line.
Well, it's also got to mean points, too. I mean, Emig was only 2 behind the leader, Jeremy McGrath. Of course, he did finish ahead of McGrath and also Mike Kedrowski in the first moto. So we don't know where that shapes up points right now, but that could all play into effect later on in the year.
Well, it's a very tight points battle in this championship chase right now. Damon's now thrown into the mix. That's going to affect things a little bit. And it looks like if Henry was able to stay where he's at and just finish ahead of John Dowd right now, that puts him in an overall position.
Well, there's Doug Henry right now, the winner of Moto number 1 in second spot, closely followed by Damon Bradshaw, Jeff Emig, and John Dowd. As you look at our Honda Field summary, we'll be back with more from Mount Morris, Pennsylvania after this. Welcome back to High Point Raceway, Mount Morris, Pennsylvania. Art Ekman, David Bailey, and John Kernan bringing you all the action. Jeremy McGrath gets the whole shot. He is just about long gone, but he is being pursued hotly by Doug Henry, Damon Bradshaw, Jeff Emig, and number 14, John Dowd, also in there.
This is what I've been waiting to see. I've been waiting to see how
all these guys stacked up against each other. You remember that McGrath was well out of the picture in the first moto, and now Henry, McGrath, Bradshaw, Emig, all fast riders running right up front and running pretty much the same pace.
There you get a good look at Jeff Emig. Remember, he won a moto out at Sacramento, the first moto of the day, but lost the overall to Kudrowski because of a tiebreaker.
Well, you don't like to lose because of a tiebreaker, but in the overall points chase, you're tied, so it's really
That's
not
right.
that big of a deal. You always like to pick up the win, but if you're tied on points, it's not that big a deal.
Now we look back. There's a good look at John Dowd. Finished 8th here last year, had a really good run, finished 3rd in moto number 1. But I tell you, I don't think anybody's going to catch McGrath. The track has dried out quite a bit, and once he gets out of there, he's usually gone.
Well, he's got clear sailing right now, and we don't even see him. He appears to be pulling away right now. Doug Henry doesn't have that much motivation to get around him because he's sitting in an overall victory position.
Oh, man, what a tough break for Larry Ward. The second-place finisher overall in Supercross this year is sidelined. A bad day for him, and David, we're getting preliminary indications from our guys down in the pits that it possibly a clutch problem.
Well, Larry Ward is tough on a clutch, and I would have expected they would have changed that between motos if they thought there was any problem, but either way, unfortunate. He's going to lose a lot of points today.
Well, Jeff Emig hoping to pick up some points here in this second moto as he is ahead of John Dowd, the two Yamaha teammates riding, and I believe that's Kyle Lewis on the Nolene Sizzler Yamaha has also moved in that. That's battle for 4th, 5th, and 6th.
It looks to me like, oh, look at the triple. Emig doing that triple all the way up the hill. Tough to do in the first moto because of the rain, but Emig didn't seem like he made that much time on John Dowd, but you heard a few people screaming. That's got to look pretty spectacular.
Now let's check in on this week's Honda riding tip.
Part of the success in winning championships is a mechanic. Joining us today is 3-time Supercross champion mechanic Skip Norfolk. Skip, how important is bike preparation?
It's probably the most important thing you have to do on the race day. It's important first to start with a clean motorcycle. That way you can visually look and see all the details. You can check and see if the frame's cracked or if the stress marks are stressing the paint off the frame or anything like that. The other important items to check are you need to look at the tires, check for wear. Also check for any damages that might have occurred from rocks slicing the tires or anything like that. You need to check over the handlebars, make sure all the controls are working good, the clutch, the throttle, the brakes. Make sure that there's no debris blocking those or distracting the way they operate. And then probably after that, you need to make sure it's got gas in it. You can't leave without gas.
Winning championships, part of it is the mechanic as well as a championship rider. For today's Honda Riders Tip, this is Ben Cheatwood with Skip Norfolk.
Talking about a clean bike, look at that. We talked about you get out front, nobody hits you, and Jeremy McGrath looks like he just pulled in and had that baby washed and waxed.
Well, there's his little buffing towel hanging there off of his He's not going to need it this moto, but you like to be prepared.
Well, you never know. McGrath, the whole shot, gets out in front, and he is at the top of our Honda Field Summary. Back with more from High Point after this. Now it's time for this week's Suzuki Flashback as we roll back the videotape. Just 1 year, 1994, Mount Morris on the start of Moto number 1. A big crash involving 3 riders, including Phil Lawrence on 18, Doug Duback on 32.
It was Jeremy McGrath with the early lead, but Mike Kudrowski proving why he has that number 1 plate, showing Jeremy McGrath the fastest line around this Mount Morris track.
Take a look back at Mike LaRocco. LaRocco running in 3rd as he tries to chase down McGrath. The diligence finally pays off, and LaRocco, as they come up the hill, will take the inside move and get around McGrath to take over the 2nd spot.
Now, last season, McGrath was getting off to good starts. No one really expected him to do that well. His motivation outdoors was minimal, and he kept on fading to the Kawasaki riders.
Moto number 1, of course, goes to Kudrowski, the defending national champion. Now to Moto number 2. A bunch of guys up front battling for the lead that weren't anywhere to be seen. Duback, Button, Michael Craig, along with LaRocco and McGrath.
McGrath with that sneaky inside line moves into the number 3 spot. He's got Kudrowski and LaRocco breathing down his neck, and after the downhill whoop-de-doo section, McGrath's strength, that timing through the whoops, takes over the lead.
Right through the middle as Jeremy moves out front, but it wouldn't last all that long. McGrath would be challenged by LaRocco. LaRocco on the inside, McGrath on the outside, back up the hill, and the Rocket will get a slight edge.
But LaRocco's lead wouldn't last long either. Kudrowski back there in 3rd place turned up the boost past both these riders and carved into his teammates' points lead.
Kiedrowski would go 1-1 on the day for the overall to cut LaRocco's lead to 11. Now back to 1995, Doug Henry in second place, but I believe he's going to have a little company from John Dowd fairly soon. Dowd has been slowly closing the gap on Henry.
Well, Henry is going to have to pick up the pace because Dowd has been steadily gaining, and although Henry's in a position to win the overall, if he was to slip back too much, Dowd could possibly pick it up.
Well, right now, Doug Henry trying to maintain that advantage, trying not to be too careful, but look at Dowd. Oh, and Dowd got it sideways off that jump, and whew, man, did a 180 almost. What was that, about a 90-degree turn in midair?
I'm not sure what you would call that, but you'd call it bad luck. He lost some time. He was definitely pressure, and we're going to get another look. It looks like he leans into this jump because you're kind of making a right-hand corner, and the back end just got away from him, and that could have been a whole lot worse. All he did really was just kind of slide down.
Well, he loses a few spots, gets back up on the bike, and is underway. Jeff Emig trying to make a charge. Art Ekman is down in the pit area. And Art, what you got?
Number 6, Jeff Emig, is doing everything possible to try to catch the second position, Doug Henry. And here's a good example. He's the only one making this triple in front of the mechanics.
Did they used to call that the David Bailey triple?
I don't know if they actually called it that, but I was actually the first guy to ever jump that, but that was on a 500. I had a little extra horsepower.
I don't know. With the improvements today, don't these 250s have about as much horsepower as that 500
Just
did?
about, yeah. They got a nice power band. I think we got a glimpse of Doug Henry jumping that too, but I think Emig's making it look easy, and he's doing it consistently.
Well, look at this. Damon Bradshaw off the course. In fact, David, I'm told that he crashed into the trees.
Well, he looks pretty dazed. I don't think he knows where he is right now or who he is. But maybe that foam filter he had taped to the top of his helmet cushioned the blow a little.
Oh, boy, I'm not going to touch that. Speaking of not getting touched, Jeremy McGrath way out in front.
Well, Jeremy does well when everything is going good, but the first moto was pretty muddy. He struggled. He did fall, and that was tough. But when the conditions aren't that good, Jeremy doesn't do that well. And I don't think he's an all-around rider, but he is slowly starting to prove that he is by doing better outdoors this year.
Well, he is in the lead right now, in command, actually. Back with the finish next. Art Ekman, David Bailey, and John Kernan back at High Point Raceway, Mount Morris, Pennsylvania, and Jeremy McGrath is, what can I say, he is long gone away from his teammate Doug Henry, who's in second place. White flag is out, 1 lap to go, and McGrath will become the first repeat moto winner in 1995.
He looks pretty fired up to me right now. He's got a good rhythm. He's kind of hopping over the bumps. He's putting the bike where he wants it, and he's starting to really shine and show that aggressive and riding style and the timing that he's known for. It's just a shame that he can't put 2 motos together.
Well, you know, the sign on the mechanic that he held out, the Skip Norfolk had, it said David Bailey's dissing you. That was just before we went to commercial. And so Jeremy's picking it up for you, David.
Well, the only thing he's going to need that towel for now is just to wipe the sweat off his forehead before the interview. He didn't need it for the mud. He never even had anybody in front of him to have to dodge any roost. Clear sailing the whole way, opened up a lead, and deserved this moto.
What a change of conditions, though, from the first moto to the second moto. Have you ever been, in your career, were you in that type of a situation where one moto was completely a mud bath, the next time it was like this?
Absolutely. It happened quite a few times, and it definitely would. It happens on tracks like this, like Mount Morris, where they do a good job of preparing the track, and it's on a hillside. Everything is off camber and uphill and downhill, so the water runs off, it drains well, and dries out pretty quick.
Makes a lot of work for the mechanics between motos too, doesn't it? They've got to make some changes, choose the tires.
Quite a bit. It's probably safe to say that they run the ride height of the motorcycle a little higher in that first moto, where you have so much mud hanging on the bike, it weighs it down, and they made a few changes between motos, and possibly Jeremy's setup for the first moto wasn't that good, and that's why he had problems. Also, a crash contributed to that.
Right, McGrath, of course, crashing on the very first lap of moto number 1, but he didn't let that deter him in moto number 2. As it dried up, McGrath got the whole shot. Look at that, raising the hand, waving to the fans. He knows that he's on his way to his second moto victory, but Doug Henry, sitting back in that second spot, will have the overall wrapped up.
Oh, it's a good day for Jeremy and for Doug Henry. Doug Henry picking up his first ever 250 Outdoor National win, and Jeremy holding on to his points lead and finishing off the day strong.
Well, I do believe the points are going to tighten up. They were only 1 point, but that was Kiedrowski to McGrath. Kiedrowski also had his problems in Moto number 1, but Henry, who was sitting in 4th place in the points, is going to make a big move by picking up the overall victory. Once again, McGrath coming around waving to the crowd. He's just on a cruise control ride right now.
Well, there's a lot of privateers and some of the riders that wish they could be on cruise control and still go this fast. Jeremy making it look easy.
Jeremy McGrath gets the checkered flag to win the victory, but it looks like Doug Henry, if he can make it across the finish line, will take the overall title of the day, his first outdoor national win. McGrath becoming the first to repeat a moto victory. He won, remember, at Gainesville to open the season. Jeff Emig did get around Doug Henry in the closing lap, and John Dowd is 4th with Kiedrowski rounding out the top 5. As you take a look at the rest of the top 10, Art is with the winner.
Well, you rode like you didn't even need the pit board that Skip put out saying hammer it, because it looked like you were rather disgusted about a 9th place first moto finish.
Yeah, you know, 9th place in the first moto just wasn't good enough. You know, that mud was out there. I was having a little bit of trouble. Crashed on the ground 4 times, so I had to make up for something.
And the track just dried out beautiful for you.
Oh yeah, there was some great lines out there. The track was drying out. I was hoping it wasn't going to rain anymore, but ended up taking the lead on the first lap and never looking back.
Here's a check on the overall results. Henry, of course, the winner. Dowd second, followed by McGrath, who rallied from that terrible start in Moto number 1. As you'll take a look at the rest of the top 10, Art Ekman is with our overall winner.
Mr. Overall, Doug Henry, how's it feel, partner?
It feels great. Last year I came out here and won on my 125, and to come back in my first year on 250 and win, it's great.
Doug, it was a difficult track, though, and as you proved here in the second moto, going down.
Yeah, I went down in the bottom of the downhills, and that let Emig go by me, and you know, John was right on me. I think he ended up falling too, so I wasn't the only one that fell out there. It was definitely a tough track.
How do you feel now as you approach the rest of the national season?
Really good. This is probably the best I've been doing in the beginning of the series. Usually I don't do so hot in the beginning, and you know, after these Supercrosses are over, it's just, you know, full outdoor mode. So I'll be up there again.
Here's the way the points stack up. McGrath a 1-point lead over his teammate Doug Henry. And then look at that, Jeff Emig back with 112. In fact, 13 points separate the top 4.
Very tight, and Doug Henry serving notice that he's a force to be reckoned with for the rest of the season. You heard him say he gets stronger as the season wears on.
Congratulations once again to the 2-time 125 champ Doug Henry with his first outdoor 250 national victory today. For Art Ekman and David Bailey, I'm John Kernan saying so long, everybody.